Stacked another good practice together again today, and we're definitely going to need it this week going against a good football team. I would tell you first off, do not look at their record. These guys are pretty good, and commend the whole coaching staff and how they gotten these guys prepared each week and ready to play. You look at their talent level across the board. You know, Kyle is back, and we know he's a big play, ready to happen at any moment. Connor's still running the ball extremely hard. Rondell Hollywood can take the top off at any time. They're doing a little bit more with Rondell, putting him in the backfield. He's running the football well. And the offensive line is doing a great job protecting. So I've told the guys all week, you know, we're going to have to go earn this one. It's going to be definitely a tough game, and I know we're going to be up for the challenge. So with that, I'll take your questions.
Murray's given this defense some problems sometimes during his career. What's the key to defending him?
Again, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Number one, we got to be sound in our defensive responsibilities for his zone read. You know, not allowing him to be able to get outside the pocket because he's definitely going to pull it. And then also his ability to be able to scramble and go make a big play. I think it's a little different than Jalen, than what we faced a couple of weeks ago, but it's still the same premise that we got to make sure that we contain him. And once again, I think he's doing an excellent job going through his progression, trying to stay in the pocket, going through his different reads and putting the ball where it needs to go.
What's the biggest difference? You mentioned it's different than defending Jalen. What's the biggest difference?
I think, you know, when he gets outside the pocket, he can run. He can leave you. He can go by you. So we got to do a great job making sure we try to contain him. We felt different with Jalen, you know, forcing him outside and not allowing him to get up vertical inside those A and B gaps, and that we can, you know, go get him. Kyler Murray is totally different.
You look at Kyler Murray previous to his injury and then now, how much different does he look? Does he look like the same guy?
He looks like the same guy to me. You know, I think now with technology and how these guys bounce back from ACLs and those things, he's still running well. Once again, I don't see any, you know, limp or a glitch in his performance. So it's always a concern when you have these running quarterbacks. So we got to do a great job by committee, you know, 11 guys getting to the football and making sure that, you know, there's no assumptions that he's down.
You're a little first up at defensive tackle at the moment. What's kind of your state of confidence in the backups there?
Oh, a lot of confidence. You look at what Ken Law and Kevin has been doing, given the last couple of weeks. Very confident in their performance and how they're going to play. We're not going to put the onus on them. It's going to be critical that they do a great job inside penetrating and trying to play on their side of the line of scrimmage. But across the board, we all got to step up.
Steve, in the first matchup, they went up tempo on you, I think, in the first half. Looking back at that, how did you feel like your defense defended that, and do you expect that again?
That's part of their, you know, their offense, and we always got to be ready for that, you know, and we just got to weather the storm. I think what happens in most of those type situations, we got to be ready for what I consider a minimum package and the things that I'm trying to get done when they start up tempo, because sometimes they get you back on your heels a little bit where you can't really do what you want, but we have a certain menu that we like when they get up tempo. So that's what we got to get to quickly.
You used to be head coach down there. I'm just kind of curious, what kind of emotions does that carry for you?
None.
You went back there before, right?
Yes, several times. So we beyond that.
If Dre Greenlaw and Warren Burks are out, are you looking at maybe doing Robert Beal, D. Winters? How are they going to fit in?
Well, you know, D is definitely up. He does a good job on special teams. I have total confidence if he has to go in there and play. You know, he's played sparingly this year, particularly late in the game. So I got a lot of confidence in him, and we'll see exactly what's going to transpire with Robert.
How have they progressed so far since the start of the season?
With Robert?
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, D, I've talked about him several occasions. I think he's gotten so much better. You know, I think Johnny has done a tremendous job in just the teaching and the progression that really him and Jalen both. And then I think Robert has a bright future. You know, I really do. So Kasarik is excited about him and the things that I see as well. So we got some good young talent. And, you know, hopefully when they get in there, the expectation doesn't change. They'll step up and perform.
You've seen out of Flanagan Fowles playing there.
He's smart, can play all three positions. You know, if anything happens with Greenlaw, we anticipate him playing this week. But if not, I have total confidence in Flan can go in there and get the job done.
So you anticipate Drake playing this week?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
I see a special player in Jalen Graham, Steve. You look great in the preseason. How's he progressed as the year has gone on, and what do you see when you watch him?
I see a lot of talent. I see a guy with length that can run. The one thing that Jalen, you have to remember, when we got him, he was really a converted safety, played well out in space. And it takes a while, not just within this defense, but as a whole, just in the league, trying to learn that position. And you can see the difference in D, who actually played linebacker at TCU. He picks up things a little quicker and whatnot. So that's the difference in the progression. But I have, total confidence in Jalen and how he's progressing and the things that he's doing.
Was that among your first messages this week? They are 3-10, but please do not look at that record.
Yeah, I think it started with Kyle. Kyle does a great job in setting the tone each week and painting the picture that we all need to see as players and coaches. So, and I just echo that message, and I see the same thing when we watch tape. This, I don't even know what their record is. I don't really care, but they're a good football team. They're better than what their record states.
Faced a lot of criticism during the 3-game losing streak. Now the team's winning and you're coaching the #1 defense in the league, and people don't have that much to say about you anymore. Does that amuse you?
No, you know what, man? Like I told you guys before, I'm a very small piece to this puzzle. I knew coming into this situation when we didn't do well, I was going to get blamed, and when we did good, we supposed to. We were #1 last year, so it is what it is.
Hey, you were a DB, Steve, and you know DBs. What do you think of Luter? He's shown on special teams. Is he healthy now?
Yeah, Luter, going back, I mentioned Jalen. I talked about Robert Bill and then D. Winters. A lot of credit, man, to John Lynch and the whole entire scouting department. And I said this several times to the defensive staff, man. I think we hit on all our picks on defense, man. Those guys going to be great players for us. Luter, I hate he got hurt, but the way he's bounced back, I pointed out the special teams play that he did against Seattle on Thanksgiving Day, basically, saving that touchdown, and defense went out there and held him to 3 points, but just his performance on special teams and his ability to come in and do some things on defense, I think he's going to be well.
What's your assessment on Jason Verrett so far?
Love Jason, man. Never had the chance. I just missed him when I left San Diego. Great player, even better human being. All the guys love him. He's one of the favorites in the locker room, with his relationships and being here before. Great movement. He's still moving well. I'm very confident that he's going to be able to help us at some point, whether inside or outside, and looking forward to getting him on the field at some time soon. Thank you, guys. Mm-hmm.
I have no opening statement. I'm ready to go.
Steve was just talking about how Kyle was talking about they're 3-10, but please don't, to the message to the team, do not look at 3-10. These guys can actually, play. They're on the, I guess, upswing. Does that resonate with you from what you see?
Yeah, records really, win and losing games comes down to a lot of things that happen in a game, turnovers, and you make a kick, you don't make a kick, things like that. You look at the team, you look at the players that your guys are going against, you look at the side of the ball you're going against, and you evaluate those players, you evaluate the scheme, and you look at what the challenges and what you have to do every week, and it's just, you get so, I think, ground down in the minutia, and you try to just stay in that world of, hey, we got to take care of this, where I got to do in my job, that the big picture thing just really doesn't weigh that heavily on what their record is or where they're headed or what they're doing. And so, there's tons of stories about past teams I've been on where you have, you've been in a situation where your record isn't quite as good, and shoot, these games become like playoff games for you at the end of the season. Your team's building towards something next season, and so on and so forth. But all that stuff really doesn't matter. What we got to do is take care of business, what our job is every single play, and do the best that we can, and that's where the focus is.
Game Brock said he noticed that Jamal Adams was flat-footed, and the fact that he recognized that before the play on Devo's touchdown. Is that something that you don't see as often in the young quarterback?
Every guy, you're looking at something different every single play. So, he's an experienced thrower. He's played quarter. We've talked about what a good quarterback he's been through the years as far as he's played the position. He understands the position. And these are things, who knows when he picked that up during the course of his career. You never know. Every guy's different. Sometimes you're amazed when a guy comes in from college football and the things he knows. And then you're amazed sometimes with things they don't know, and you're having to teach them that. So You never know. He might have picked that up in, sophomore year of high school football, noticing flat-footed defenders and things like that. Or he might have just, picked it up recently, hearing it from somebody else talk. So you just don't know. You'd have to ask him that. But, he does continue to do really, really good things and things that seem to put him, a little probably ahead of the curve for where a guy with his experience and age is.
How is the culture here made things self-sustaining sort of for a coach? I mean, do you not have to spend a lot of time, or I got to get this guy going today because, they're looking at their teammates to get going?
Well, I think it's both things. I think that, you always go back to, we've talked about, I know John and Kyle have talked about a lot, the way we have decided to draft players. Heck, we brought players in, they haven't worked out, they've worked out. But the type of player that we bring in traditionally has been the kind of guy that we feel really good about and a guy that is self-motivated and does fit what our quote-unquote culture is. I go back to it really does start with how the expectation that Kyle sets for everybody. And that expectation, it's in every part of the building, whether it be in the on-field, the off-field, the way people work, all those things. There's just an expectation level that it's just there's not much variance or give in it, and so that it kind of then becomes self-sustaining to a degree. But we have to stay on it every single day. It's not like I don't come to work. I know that if I'm not doing something right, I'm going to hear about it. If one of my players isn't doing something right, if there's a drop-off during practice, they're going to hear about it from me. They're going to hear about it from other players. So there is that. They work with each other. We've got a good veteran team that way, but it starts at the top, and it really does. Kyle is just very demanding of all of us, and that expectation level is why it is the way it is. And then you bring in players that like that. So then they thrive in that environment. So then they do keep it going.
You see a guy like Kyle Juszczyk who tries to show you every day all the different things that he can do, and I know other fullbacks around the league that seems like they've kind of embraced that more. You've been around for a while. You've seen that position kind of evolve. How much do you think versatility and being able to do that, especially at that position, is kind of key to keeping it alive?
Well, for us, it really is, because the game is, as everybody wants to take the game and become a spread, and that's been the trend over time. And so then you can stay with the I formation and do the things, but being able to break out of the I and use your fullback in those other ways allows you to kind of do some of the spread things, some of the things that other teams are doing without a fullback, and yet still put the fullback in the backfield. This thing's shaking, and put you in a position that you can run some of the traditional plays that you'd use a traditional fullback on. There's a lot of advantages to having a fullback. And so put him in the backfield there and being able to do the things we do with him or the other tight ends, there's an advantage to how you can cut the defense, different things you can do. When you're a one-back offense, you really don't, there's a lot of, you don't have a lot of leverage and things like that. That's why the quarterback runs and the zone read stuff becomes such a big thing, because you regain an advantage that you don't have with one back in the backfield. So yeah, that advantage that Kyle gives us, and that it lets you do a little bit of everything, and that's really, really cool. And that does, I think the kid, I know that I've talked to the guys in Miami, the guy they have there, Ingle, whatever his name is, he does a heck of a job doing some of the same things. He's probably not quite as versatile athletically, but he still does a lot of those same things, and then is still a good fullback.
It was more like a tipping point of when that position had to evolve in a way, because it used to just be like, the sledgehammers going through.
Well, I think what happened was I ran into it when I was in Tampa. There was a really good guy. In fact, with Frank Wycheck's passing the Music City Miracle, one of the pieces of that was Lorenzo Neal. And Lorenzo was with us in Tampa. And Lorenzo was the definition of leverage. You say, how do you get leverage? Well, you'd be about 5'9" and weigh about 240 pounds and be built like a fire hydrant. You have leverage on everybody you're going to block. Well, Zoe was that. But the problem is that even in Tampa, where we weren't going to throw the ball a lot back in the day, he played 15 snaps. You're paying him X amount of dollars to play that limited number of snaps, and so all of a sudden you're like, it's not worth it. And then you want to throw the ball a little bit more, do different things with different positions. So I think that if you're going to be on the roster, you can't have somebody that's that limited. So having that be more versatile, it more fits the salary, everything that goes into it.
Can you also just execute more blocking combinations with a fullback on the field?
There's more things available. There really are. There's just more, and moving tight ends. It's all the same thing, that H-back type position. But you're having guys that can, you just can cut the defense in different ways. Things that you see sometimes, we have these plays that, you just see like it just kind of opens up because we've cut it. We build a wall this way, we knock things out this way, but that allows with fullback. When it's one back, you're always, and we've had our most productive play is a one back play. The fullback might be up on the line of scrimmage, but we don't have the cut of the defense. We don't have angles on, and it's been a productive play for us this season, more productive than ever. And it's still probably our best play. But those plays do. All of a sudden, you're doing this, all of a sudden, bam, bam, you cut the defense with the fullback, and it gives you some more flexibility.
Prominent downfield blocking by wide receivers in this last game, as there has been throughout the season. I'm just wondering how Kyle, how you, or how Leonard kind of highlights that. Is that something that after a game like that is sort of underscored?
You caught me in a minute with Leonard. I call him Hank. It's Hank. I didn't think of it. I remember Hank. Hank has a hard hat in his meeting room, and if they get a good block or hard, they get to sign the hard hat. So like Juwan's on there a bunch this year. They all do. I'll go back when I first started working with Kyle and Mike Shanahan in Washington. Every Friday we had what we called the run meeting, and what you did is you took Thursday's team run period, and it started with Alex Gibbs in Denver, and he'd go in there, and it would be his chance to coach all 11 guys in the run game. And that's when he would, for Alex, and I can't speak for him, he rest in peace, but he would get to rip everybody in the room. Not that he just rip his lineman, now he'd get to chew out the receivers, chew out the quarterback for not carrying out the fake, and it became his chance to kind of bring everybody together in the run game. And so I get the meeting, and I'm like, am I going to yell at Santana Moss? Am I doing, all these guys? So I'm running the meeting, and Coach Shanahan, as he did, he recorded all the meetings so he could actually punch in on a screen and watch everybody's meetings. He could go from meeting room to meeting room and listen on a video screen. So he's listening to my meeting, and all of a sudden the door flies open, and he comes in from his office. I was in the middle of trying to run this meeting, like I didn't know how Alex did it, and he's like, "Hey, Coach, this Santana, that's unacceptable. You got to get your ass in there and block that guy. And coach, you got to coach him harder to go do it." I'm like, oh crap, here we go. So I'm like, I got to figure out how to do this meeting, because there was a very high. This is a roundabout way to tell you the story, but this guy, they had a high expectation level for receiver blocking. And from that point forward, now I said, I can't do it that way. So what I would do when Santana missed his block, I started going back and find other film clips of game tape where Santana did. Hey, Santana, hey man, look at this. Look at what a great job. And then this, hey Tanner, we know you can do better than that in this place. Same thing here. You can show Debo doing things excellent, or Ayuk and those guys. And so it's the expectation, like we spoke earlier about the expectation of the building. When we run the football, it's all 11 guys. The quarterback carrying out the fake, the receivers doing their part. That expectation level was set a long time ago, and it's all of us. Hank has to stay on, and we all do. And it's not acceptable to not do your job in the running game, because it's a huge part of what we do, and that's why, knock on wood, we've had some success here running the football. It's all 11 doing it.
Much is made of the Niners and pre-snap motion and other teams, the Dolphins. I mean, go down the list. And Kyle's talked about, how it can't put a defense in a bind and they have to adjust. Why doesn't, because there are, some teams that really don't use it that much. Why is that? Like, when you see the effect it can have, why would teams say, no, that's not for us?
Well, some systems, you've heard quarterbacks mic'd up, right? Making mic points, mic 52, mic, and the more you move. Peyton Manning was when they beat Rex Ryan's defense in a championship game, I think it was, when the Jets made it the one year and the Colts went. I think they lost it anyway. He went the whole second half and said, not only do I not want to move, I want to be in the same formation every single snap, because I'll be able to know exactly what they're doing. If I just stay in this formation, I have all the tells so I can put us in the right play. So any motion would make it really hard for him to audible or check with me or do plays like that. Other teams have to have a mic point. Everything's moving, right? So you have to move and get set, and it's impossible to make the identification. So, we've built a system through the quarterback doesn't have to do all that. And so the plays, and we've gone through the years, it's evolved. I mean, because I was with Kyle in 2010 and then was apart for a little bit and came back together. It's just evolved. And how we identify people, we came up with a way in 2010. Some of that has changed with motion and movement. We've had to come up with different words as to how we do it to fix things when you have jet sweeps going this way and that way, to tell the center how to identify it properly. But because teams they're predicated on, we want the quarterback, everybody gets set, quarterback says we're going here, everybody goes here, it sets the table cleanly. We're not always clean. It's not always perfect, but there's a trade-off. Neither are they, and it's just a real challenge. And that challenge it's real. I mean, Jake Brendel is challenged, and as were the centers before him in the systems, to really get up there and make sure that everybody's going in the right direction. They do a heck of a job with it. We got to still do better, because there is, and sometimes we're like, we have all these moving pieces, and you're like, oh wow, we haven't seen that before. And you got to kind of, start back and say, maybe we have to adjust how we're doing this, that, or the other thing. It's all the nickel defense being played to base now. There's always a challenge. As defenses evolve and we evolve with the moving pieces, it's a chess match always.
What do you think of Ben Barge so far, and where does he fit best on your line if you had to project?
Ben's doing a great job. I was a real good friend of mine, George Warhop, who was the line coach in Jacksonville, had him. And actually, when we played Jacksonville, George and I got together for a breakfast, and we just talked. And he's not in coaching this year. Hopefully gets back. He should get back in next year. He's a great coach. And George said, hey, man, they just traded for Ezra Cleveland, the Jacksonville Jaguars did, and they bumped my guy Benny Barch down to practice squad. He said, if you get a chance to pick him up, he'd be a really, really good guy to pick up. And so I watched the tape, and he was really good. They had a knee injury. And so when you watch this year's tape, you're like, I said, George, he's struggling, man. But when you went back and watched the year before, and some guys, it takes a guy a year after the knee, it takes another year. And so when you watch him, and I got him here, he fits our system. He's quick, guard, probably not yet anchoring well enough at guard. You're a little bit concerned as anchor and pass pro. That's what concerned me on the Jacksonville tape. But at center, he can play center as well. Those interior three positions, man, he's got the quickness, he's got the length, he's got some size. And as he gets into our system, we keep working with him. I think he's got a real good fit for our inside three and gives us a chance to another good quality player inside. I really like the guy. Thank you very much, guys.
Hey, Faithful, click here to subscribe.